Have you ever wondered why we cannot stop doing things that destroy us? Whether it is endlessly scrolling on a smartphone, overworking, or consuming toxic substances, we call it addiction. We punish ourselves. We call ourselves weak. But what if everything you have been told about addiction is completely wrong? Hi, I am Elena, and welcome back to Elena Talks. In today's episode, we are diving into the darkest corners of the human mind. By combining the neuroscience of Stanford's Dr. Anna Lembke with the profound psychological insights of Dr. Gabor Maté, we are going to decode the true root of your destructive behaviors. We will explore the dopamine trap, the hidden scars of childhood trauma, and why your inability to focus might not be a genetic flaw, but a survival mechanism. Make sure to stick around until the end, because I am going to ask you a question that might change your life. Let us dive in. To understand why we get trapped, we first need to look at the chemistry of our brain. Dr. Anna Lembke introduces a brilliant concept in her book, Dopamine Nation. Imagine a seesaw in your brain. One side is pleasure, and the other side is pain. Every time you engage in a highly rewarding behavior, like eating sugar, watching porn, or getting likes on social media, the pleasure side drops down. Your dopamine spikes. But the brain is desperate for balance, so immediately after, it pushes the pain side down even harder to level out. This is that feeling of emptiness or crash you get right after the pleasure fades. Here is the trap. If you keep hitting that dopamine button, your brain's baseline drops. You no longer do the behavior to feel high, you do it just to feel normal. Dr. Lembke defines addiction beautifully. She says, "Addiction is the progressive narrowing of the things that bring you pleasure. Soon, the only thing that makes you feel alive is the very thing that is destroying you." But while Dr. Lembke shows us the chemistry, Dr. Gabor Maté reveals the deep psychological roots. Maté spent decades working with the most severe cases of addiction, and he came to a radical conclusion. Addiction is not the problem. Addiction is an attempt to solve a problem. It is a desperate attempt to soothe emotional pain. Maté argues that behind every addiction, whether it is to drugs, sex, or even being a workaholic, there is trauma. When we hear the word trauma, we think of terrible, catastrophic events. But trauma is not what happens to you. Trauma is what happens inside you as a result of what happens to you. It is a disconnection from yourself. As human beings, we have two fundamental needs. First, attachment, the need to connect with our caregivers to survive. Second, authenticity, the need to be our true selves and trust our gut feelings. But what happens in childhood when these two needs clash? Imagine a child who expresses a natural, authentic emotion, like anger or sadness, and the parent reacts with rejection or punishment. In that terrifying moment, the child learns a silent, deadly lesson. If I am my authentic self, I will lose the love I need to survive. So, the child suppresses their authenticity to maintain the attachment. They disconnect from their own feelings. That disconnection is trauma. Years later, that child grows into an adult who feels a deep, unexplainable void, an emptiness, and they will use anything. A substance, a toxic relationship, or an obsession with work to fill that void and feel a sense of connection again. This trauma even alters how our brains function. Take ADHD, for example. We are often told it is purely genetic, but Maté suggests a different angle. If a child grows up in a highly stressful environment and they cannot fight or run away from the stress, what is their only option? They tune out. They disconnect their mind from reality to protect themselves. If you practice tuning out enough as a child, it becomes your brain's default state. Years later, we call this inability to stay present ADHD. It was not a flaw. It was a coping mechanism that became permanent. So, how do we fix this? How do we treat ourselves or the people we love who are trapped in these cycles? Society tells us to punish addicts, to shame them, but you cannot punish someone into healing. The only way to break the cycle is through radical compassion. If someone you love is struggling, you must set firm boundaries for your own peace, but offer them unconditional connection. You say, "I cannot accept this behavior, but I love you and I am not leaving you." Healing begins when we stop asking, "Why the addiction?" and start asking, "Why the pain?" We live in a society that constantly tells us to move, to achieve, to consume. But I want to leave you with a profound question today. If someone tied your hands, if you were not allowed to work, not allowed to check your phone, not allowed to consume any substance or distraction, could you sit alone with yourself for 1 hour? Or would the silence be too painful? Because if you cannot tolerate being alone with your own mind, then your constant movement is not progress. It is running away. Healing is not about moving faster. It is about stopping, turning around, and finally facing the parts of yourself you have been running from. If this masterclass opened your eyes today, hit that like button and subscribe to Elena Talks. It is the only way this channel can survive and keep bringing you these deep psychological breakdowns. Drop a comment below. What is one behavior you have been using to escape your own mind? Let us talk about it. Stay strong, take care of your beautiful mind, and I will see you in the next video.